Joining us today is a wrestler, a trainer, and an all-around good guy. He was born into the wrestling business and is practically wrestling royalty. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Leland Race. Leland, how's it going today? Thanks for coming on.
I'm doing great, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate every opportunity that's thrown my way, and all the good words that you guys said. I appreciate it very much, and just looking forward to talking with you guys and having a good time tonight.
Great. Now, Leland, many people know that your father is the legendary Harley Race. What they may not know is just how long you have been involved in the wrestling business. When did you first get started?
Yeah, I started when I was 17 years old, back in 2003, and I've been involved with it ever since. So going on 13 years, 13 and a half years now.
Now, was that something that your dad, like being in the wrestling business, did he look down on that, or was he kind of happy that you started to follow in his footsteps?
It was like, it wasn't good or bad. He just said if I wanted to do it, it's totally my decision, and he wasn't going to help me, give me a leg up in this industry just because of the last name. And I had to go out there and work for everything that I still have today, and I still continue to work, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
Definitely. Now, can you go back to maybe that one moment in time when that wrestling bug bit you? Was it a moment, as a kid growing up watching your dad or just watching TV? Any special moment that you can go back to?
When I was really young, I didn't know exactly I knew what my dad did, don't get me wrong, but you don't really comprehend at such an early age what your parents do for a living. Whether you're a cop or whether your parents are cops or firemen or lawyers or doctors or whatever the case is. Yeah, if they're a cop, you just see them walk out the door with, all the cop stuff on, but you don't realize that they protect people's lives for their job and prevent crime. And that's a dangerous thing. And, doctors, they go out there and save lives every single day. Mm-hmm. And, so you don't really understand I don't want to say the severity of it. You don't really comprehend what your parents do for a living until a little bit later on in life. And that was probably around 10 years old when I started to really figure it out. And there wasn't any particular moment in time when it was like kind of like an aha type of moment. It was more just watching every single day and being around some of the people that obviously my dad would be around, and that just kind of rubbed off on me and built up, and it just, I didn't want to do anything else.
Awesome. Now, like you just mentioned, you were in some of the same circles as your father. Who were some of your favorite wrestlers growing up? That's
a hard question to answer. It's pretty vague. I am a huge fan of people that have been involved in amateur style, collegiate style wrestling, amateur style wrestling, whatever you want to call it. I participated in that myself when I was younger, and people like Kurt Angle and Jack Briscoe. Jack Briscoe was really, very talented wrestler. And, still try to watch film of him to this day just because you always learn something new from watching stuff that's been done in the past. And, Benoit, Jericho, especially in the early WCW days, just because it was what they were doing at that point in time in wrestling was very different. And being different in this industry makes you stand out like a sore thumb in a good way. And, watching that stuff that was different for that point in time is what really caught an interest of mine.
All right. Now, growing up also, in school, kids love wrestling. Did other kids in school, what did they think actually about your dad being Harley Race? Was there anything, did they love it? Did they hate it? I don't know. How did that feel growing up in school?
Yeah, no, it was the cool kid type of thing to do, to have underneath your belt, a real life professional wrestler being your own dad. Not everybody has that notch on their belt, and not to use in that type of fashion, but a lot of parents, they live everyday lives where they clock in and clock out, and they may be happy with their job, they may not, but a lot of people don't really get the just due that they deserve, just because of the type of everyday job that they may or may not have. And being a professional wrestler is something that is definitely out of the norm. And when you have a guy by the name of Harley Race being your father, that definitely is something that you don't run across every single day. And so it was definitely the cool kid type of thing, but also try not to brag about it just because he wasn't at home a lot, and hardly at all, especially during the prime of his career. And it was cool for the most part. I'll say that.
Now you said you started training when you were 17, which is fairly young. And most second or even third generation wrestlers seem to kind of take to the business pretty quickly. It came natural to them. Do you feel that you were ahead of the curve when you first started training, or was it still do you feel like that you were pretty much just like anybody else when you started training?
It's one thing I've learned, especially being the trainer at a wrestling school, is that everybody learns at different speeds. And it definitely helps if you have if you have a passion for this industry, and if you have a passion for professional wrestling, because then you're going to watch it not just to be a fan, but also to not try and emulate it, but to try and figure out what's being done. And there's only so much you can do at that point in time, before you cross that threshold from being into a fan into a professional wrestler. But my dad, when I first decided and got the okay, I guess, if you want to call it that, to be a professional wrestler, my dad sent me to a guy by the name of George South. He's based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and so he said, I'm not going to play any favoritism games. I don't want you starting here at my school, because that's going to be one thing that will be frowned upon, and that's, obviously, if Harley's son is there at the school, there's a good possibility of favoritism that could be looked at. And so I went out to Charlotte, North Carolina with George South, and I was training 6 days a week, about 5-6 hours a day, in a building where I could literally stand in the middle of the ring and touch the ceiling. It wasn't a very big building, but it was the best opportunity for me to learn, because, like I said, I was doing it 5-6 days a week, and I was wrestling on shows within a month and a half of my self-training. Started training at the very beginning of March of that year, and April 23rd, it was my debut of a match.
All right. Here's another question. Sometimes, I don't know if I want to call it a curse or whatnot, but, of being a pro wrestler's son or daughter, when training, or even when you had some of your first matches, did you feel maybe that people were treating you differently, or did you ever feel that you were treated differently just because of who your dad was?
No, because when I first told him, when I sat him down and said, all right, I want to do this, he said, all right, well, you can do it. You're going to go to Charlotte and you're going to train with George South. George, like I said, is a very respectable person and a great human being. But he's also a guy that is very knowledgeable about, number one, professional wrestling, and number two, how to train guys. When he sent me out there, he made the condition that, all right, only two people are going to know who you are, and that's George South and Harley Race. And so when I was going in training, I was going under the name of Jason Jones. It's kind of like an author, I believe it's called a pseudonym.
Yep.
When they changed their names for writing and book purposes, that's the agreement that him and I had, because if I decided that it wasn't what I wanted to do on a full-time basis, or if I, quite frankly, stink up the joint, he didn't want his name to be associated with it. He didn't want to be associated with failure, but just because of what he had done for professional wrestling and how long and how good of a career he had. And so, I wasn't really treated any differently. just because not everybody knew my name, legit name. And, that was a good thing. And then, when I moved back to Eldon, 2008, October 2008, I still wrestled under the name of Jason Jones, just, to continue to try. And the main reason for him wanting to make sure that I didn't compete under the Race name was just also to be able to prove to him and to the rest of the world, wrestlers and fans and everybody else in between, that I could stand on my own 2 feet without having his name attached to me. Again, it goes back to the favoritism thing.
Absolutely. Now, do you have, obviously there's a lot of second and third generation wrestlers out there. Is there one that you kind of looked up to, or even has any of them ever, talked to you about this sort of thing? Obviously, like Ted DiBiase Jr., The Rock, all these people. Have you ever had conversations with these people about being a second generation wrestler?
Some, but not a whole heck of a lot. We're all in this for the same reason, and it's not how to survive in a world as a second or third generation professional wrestler. It is how to survive in the world of professional wrestling, period. It's a tough world, especially today. It was hard on the body back in the NWA days and AWA, WWF. It was hard on the body because you were gone. Number one, you were gone 7 days a week. Number two, the conditions that the ring was in and the buildings were in, no pads around the ring or anything like that. All that stuff, it wreaked havoc on your body. And when you were gone 7 days a week, it's hard to get a solid day's worth of rest in between events. And now the conditions are a lot better, but you're still gone. If you work for WWE and Vince McMahon, you're still gone 4 or 5 days a week, sometimes more, just depending on if you're either going overseas or if you're filming movies or making appearances on behalf of the company and stuff like that. I mean, you're an extremely busy person, and trying to figure out how to survive in a world like that is difficult by yourself. So, of course, you want to try and get as much advice and as much help from people that's kind of been there and done that.
Mm-hmm. Now, Leland, how would you describe your wrestling style for people who may not have seen you yet?
My wrestling style is I can't really describe it because I go in there and I do one thing, and that's to win. And that's all I've been trained to do, is to go out there and show everybody that I can put on the best wrestling match and be the best wrestler, not only on the card or in that match, but also the entire card. And it takes time for me to have learned what I've done up thus far, and I'm not going to stop learning. It's going to be an everyday thing until the day that I die, as far as trying to get better. And at some point in time, I will be the best, and legitimately be that. But that point will come, and it's just a matter of if, not when. Going out there, and a lot of people say today that they're the best. That's like a cliche thing, so I'm not going to call myself the best. I'm going to go out there and show everybody why I am very good at what I do.
Awesome. Now, we mentioned earlier that not only do you wrestle, but you help train wrestlers as well. Is there one of those that you get more satisfaction out of, or do you like them both the same?
As far as training trainer versus wrestler?
Yes.
It honestly kind of goes hand in hand, to be honest with you, because I didn't really look at it from what I'm about to say beforehand. When you're just a wrestler, you only look at stuff from one point of view, and that's from a professional wrestler. But when you're a trainer of potential and up-and-coming professional wrestlers, you got to look at it from, all right, how am I going to break this down to get everybody to learn? And one of the most important things to people as professional wrestlers is that you have to have the ability to adjust. And not everybody has that ability. And for you to be able to adjust to each and every single person that comes through your wrestling school door will help you exceed and excel into the world of professional wrestling even further. And that's one thing that I have definitely found out the hard way. And but it's also something that I'm, happy to say that I can do.
Now, Leland, what can you tell us about WLW, and how can people find out more information about it?
World League Wrestling is, it's been around for a long time. So this is 2016, so 17 years now. And that's very hard to come by as far as independent, small-time professional wrestling companies. But the one card that we have that a lot of other companies don't is the fact that it is ran and still operated by Harley Race, the 8-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the greatest wrestler on God's green earth. He still is there every day that we're open, and without question, he wants to be there. He says that professional wrestling is his life, and believe me, it really is. He wants nothing more than to still be involved in professional wrestling. WLW was started and still is operated with the intentions of giving back to the community and bringing professional wrestling to areas that probably wouldn't see it. And what I mean by that is, when we go to these smaller towns, in 2.5 weeks, we're going to be in a town called Bell, Missouri, which I've never even heard of before a day in my life, but it's a town of 1,500 people, and we're doing a fundraiser for a youth sports league, and they will be they're busting their hind ends down there already. The kids down there, they understand that they have to put the work into it to get something out of it. And those kids love professional wrestling. The people down there that we're working with, they love professional wrestling. And without a group like us, odds are the people that will be coming to that event on Saturday, June 25th, probably wouldn't have seen professional wrestling at the price that we're bringing it to them. We're family friendly. We make it affordable for everybody to come, and we just enjoy what we do, and the fans will get to see the superstars of tomorrow's version of professional wrestling today. And you can go to HarleyRace.com. You can look up all the information on the Harley Race Wrestling Academy, the 2016 Harley Race Wrestling Camp, the beginners camp when the next one is scheduled, Harley Race, WLW. I mean, all sorts of stuff. We got it all pretty much on there. And, we're going to continue to keep that thing updated. The social media pages are up there. The search for World League Wrestling on pretty much everything, and we're on there. And give us a call. We'll be happy to answer anything that we can to help you out.
Now, you've been wrestling since you're 17. You want to become the best in the world, and maybe this is the answer to this question, but what do you consider, when the dust settles, your ultimate goal for your professional wrestling career?
To be able to continue to be involved in professional wrestling and pay my bills with it and make it my life just like it is right now. And this, I get a lot of questions thrown at me sometimes, that's worded a tiny bit differently than the way you word it. And it's, what do you consider to be a successful career, a successful professional wrestler? Everybody has a different definition of success. And, but mine is right now. To me, when about 8 years ago, I realized what I wanted to be considered as a success in professional wrestling, and that's to be able to pay my bills and take care of my family as well as my dad, and still be involved in professional wrestling all at the same time, doing the same thing. And I'm doing it right now. And obviously, I'd like to make more money, but in the same sentence, there's not too many people in the world today that are able to provide for their family using professional wrestling as a means to do so. And I'm happy and fortunate and lucky enough to be able to do that.
Great. Now, looking ahead, or in the past or whatnot, who are some of the wrestlers that you haven't gotten a chance to wrestle yet that you would like to go toe-to-toe with?
Yeah, one of them definitely is impossible to happen now, but one of them would have been Eddie Guerrero, without any shadow of any doubt whatsoever. Him, Kurt Angle has been, I've been a huge fan of his since his debut, and just his style. Let's see, Cesaro, to me, every time I watch him, he's one of the best out there today. AJ Styles is up there, and you know, the next step that I would like to take into my career would be going to wrestle for New Japan Pro Wrestling. My dad made a very good name for himself in Japan, and the amount of respect that fans in that country still have for him today is uncanny. And so I would like to continue to do that, still going out there and proving that I'm able to do it without his help, so to speak. That's what I would like to do next. And so to be able to wrestle some of the bigger Japanese superstars would be a huge, huge thing for me. And, you know, one of them at the top of my list would be Jushin Thunder Liger, you know, Tanahashi or anybody within that group.
Well, it's almost Father's Day, and obviously, you know, having a legendary father like yourself, it may not have always been the easiest to find him presents, being since he probably had the championships lying around the house. So with that being said, what does somebody get a man like Harley Race for Father's Day?
This year I'm actually going to be getting him a replica belt of the Missouri State Heavyweight Championship title that he held when he was active in his career. That's one title that he doesn't have, and he has one of the original NWA World Heavyweight Championship titles in his office, and he displays that thing proudly. And that belt probably meant the most to him throughout his entire career, not taking anything away from any of the other championships. But, you know, when you were NWA World Heavyweight Champion, you were the man. And he took that seriously. And that's why he was 8-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And he was also, maybe on a slighter, lesser-known fact, is a multiple-time Missouri State Heavyweight Champion. He was actually the very first one when it was created by Sam Mushnick, and he was the very last guy to hold that championship when the title actually meant something. And so that title, I believe, and I've had a few discussions with him, is probably, you know, second on his list as far as actual titles that he's held. That one of the more memorable championships, and so I'm working on getting a replica of that championship title made so he can hang it up in home, office, wherever.
Awesome. Now we're almost done here, but 2 more questions. You know, wrestling seems to have moved from a pure wrestling standpoint to now to more of an entertainment aspect over the years. Which do you prefer, and how do you feel about that?
You have to kind of take a step back a little bit. I mean, I understand definitely what you're asking. Mm-hmm. But when you watch wrestling today, I assume you two gentlemen and everybody that's listening watches wrestling every Monday night, I guess now Tuesday night here in a month or so, whatever day it is. What you see on television is just that, it's television. So yes, it's entertainment. But when you go to a WWE live event, which haven't either of you been to a live event?
Yes, oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, the matches are longer, and they actually put more wrestling involved in it. And it's you know, you've got to consider the source, literally how you're watching it, whether you're at home in front of television or you're at a live event. And could there be more wrestling involved? Yeah, obviously. But when you got a company like WWE that is overflowing with talent, that has 100+ wrestlers to choose from, you gotta be able to provide as much eye-catching appeal to the audience as possible. So you're going to have shorter matches. You're going to have more, for lack of a better word, skit at the moment. I can't really think of anything else to describe it as, but, you know, more entertainment factors included on a television show. But like I said, the talent level there is second to none, is that way for a reason. And so the guys that you watch wrestle every Monday or, you know, whatever night of the week you're watching it, they're talented, and they have the knowledge to go out there and put on a match that fans want to get involved in. And So it's kind of a hard question to answer with that. Could there be more wrestling? Absolutely. But professional wrestling has always, to some degree, had some form of entertainment involved in it. And people may not want to admit to that or agree to that, and that's fine. But if you go back all the way, since Abraham Lincoln, there's always been some form of entertainment involved in professional wrestling.
Awesome. Now, as we're getting to the end here, we want to just find out, where can fans keep up with you these days? Social media is a big thing, big part of this show. Do you have social media, and how can people chat with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You just go to I'm on Facebook, Twitter. I started using that again. Just Leland Race on Facebook, at the Leland Race on Twitter, and that's about all I care to keep up with. I don't really get on there a whole heck of a lot, but I am on there, and I'm more than willing to answer to promoters. If they'd like to book me, that's a very good way to do so. Or call the office call the World League Wrestling's office, talk to my dad, and get me going there too. So, I'm still very active to this day. I'm got a pretty solid summer booked up thus far, and want to continue to do so. And, just going out there and doing what I love to do every single day, and that's wrestling. And, I'm happy to be doing that.
All right, Leland. Well, we talked a lot tonight. We wish you nothing but the best in your future, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I appreciate it very much again, gentlemen. Thank you. I appreciate your time and the opportunity, and I want to say thank you to you guys as well as the fans who are listening, and just keep on supporting what we're doing, because without you, it wouldn't be around.
We have an 8-time world champion, a WWE Hall of Famer, and is currently helping create tomorrow's superstars. Please welcome Mr. Harley Race. Harley, how you doing today?
All right, how are you?
Doing great. Now, we mentioned, you're creating tomorrow's superstars. You're going to be having, in 2016, in August, the Harley Race training camp from August 22nd through the 26th. You're a legend in the business of pro wrestling. Do you feel that, do you love being able to give back now to the future stars of tomorrow?
Well, that's what keeps wrestling going, not only here, but worldwide.
Now, what are some of the things that you probably teach in your camp and your academy that you feel mainstream wrestling doesn't really emphasize on anymore?
Well, they emphasize on it at different points in time, but some of them are just needs to be picked up more and carried more stronger.
Sure. Now, you came into the WWF as King Harley Race. Did you enjoy your time working with the WWF during that time?
I enjoyed working with WWF. It was, I don't know, it was kind of like being in a different part of the world as far as wrestling was concerned, because at that point in time they were pretty much the world of wrestling, which they still are today.
Mm-hmm. Now, we said earlier, too, that you also run your own promotion. What could you tell people who have never seen a World League Wrestling show? What can you tell them about the WLW?
Well, they get to see wrestling in a frame of where it's kept. Sometimes it gets away. Mm-hmm. But it's kept more just wrestling than it is a lot of the other stuff that blends right into it.
Sure. All right. Yeah, keep it old school wrestling. Now, you spent a lot of time in WCW, and towards the end of your run there, you became a manager. Did you enjoy being a manager at that time? Was it different for you?
Yeah, it was a world of difference. You're standing out there, or you're sitting out there, and you're seeing things happening that that you would handle this way or that way, and they were going 90% of the time in the opposite direction. So it's kind of a world of difference in what you were looking at.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that managers are missing today in the world of wrestling?
No, not really. Truthfully, back when they were fairly heavy involved in wrestling, I never really saw anything that justified having to have that extra thing there and involved in it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Now, last year was a little tragic year too. We lost two wrestlers who you know very well. Can you probably tell us your thoughts a little bit about the passing of Dusty Rhodes and Roddy Piper?
Both of them, in their points in time and in their positions in the world of wrestling back then, both of them were just unbelievably good at what they did. And when the world, whatever sport you're talking about or whatever thing you're talking about, when you lose people of that caliber, the world of it is losing some main event stuff.
Definitely. Now, Harley, if, you've been through it all. Who would you consider the best wrestler in the world today? Is there anybody that stands out to you who's out there?
No, not really. There's a bunch of very good kids out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Back during my era of wrestling and before that, there wasn't, television and stuff wasn't as accessible as it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can watch a guy who wrestled in New York, you can watch him in California.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Back then you couldn't do that.
Now, when you look back on your time in the wrestling business, are you satisfied with everything that you have accomplished, or is there anything that you wish you might have gotten or done?
No, in all generality, I think I had about as good of running career as anyone ever had.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Now, also, you're a huge proponent of Japanese wrestling. What are some of the major differences between Japanese wrestling and wrestling in the United States, would you say?
Anymore, it's kind of leveled itself out.
Yep.
Back then, they had a lot more judo type stuff and that type stuff involved in it.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you were wrestling in Japan, did you ever feel any added pressure to perform because you were an American? A little bit different standing out there?
Why, sure. Back during my career and going in and out of there, I went over there, God only knows how many times,
mm-hmm.
70 plus. But you went there, and at that point, you were involved in their style of wrestling. And you had to really, really fight to keep yourself ahead of that.
Sure.
And I went there 70 plus times, so I had to like it somewhere along the line. Huh?
Yeah, definitely. Now, is it true maybe that some of the other Americans were upset with the way you wrestled in Japan because they would be expected to follow suit?
I wrestled my style of wrestling worldwide. A lot of the Japanese were kind of ticked off at me that I wouldn't slow down or get involved in their style of it. But my style of wrestling made me world champion on numerous occasions, so why should I think about changing it?
Definitely. Now, you've been a part of wrestling. You've been a part of the wrestling business for a long time. Do you feel that wrestling was more popular when you were wrestling than it is today, or how do you feel?
I think there was a lot more involvement in wrestling back during the beginning of my career up till virtually mine was over. I had a buttload of people
mm-hmm.
that were, trying to follow my style, trying to be involved in my style. And a lot of that stuff, there's several different people that I don't want to say copied, but
mm-hmm.
I took some of their style and bent it and twisted it and
mm-hmm.
made it how I wanted to use it. And I think I accomplished pretty much however I set out in wrestling to make it work for me.
Sure, definitely. Now, did you enjoy the territory days, and did you think they prepared you for life as a full-time pro wrestler?
Yes, they did. And I wish to this day that they were still involved.
Mm-hmm.
The Midwest had a different style than the North and the Northeast, and even as far south as Florida had a different style than the Northeast. There's just enough about changes that have made it interesting for you, and it gave you a chance to create a little bit different styles in the way you did it.
And now, after all your years of wrestling, you also have your son who is wrestling, Leland Race. What are your thoughts about Leland in the business these days?
Leland is coming along real well, and he's doing a very, very good job of it right now. And hopefully he continues to do it, but that's,
Mm-hmm.
It's entirely up to him. But right now he's doing very well at it.
Sure. Well, Mr. Race, we thank you so much for joining us today, and we thank you for all your contributions in the business that we love.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and I'm very happy to be able to add what I could add to the world of wrestling.